Okay, cool. A couple of things before we get started. I sent out an email and a video just to let you guys know about housekeeping stuff and agenda, but I'm just going to repeat myself here just to make sure that we're on the same page. In terms of taking notes and all that stuff, you don't have to worry about it. This is being recorded, and then you are going to have access to a replay of it. I'm also going to be sharing notes. So please go ahead and focus on the content today. And if you have any question, what you could do is keep them. Well, two things. One, just make sure you you write them down in the chat box. Hopefully, you guys see it on you guys right hand side. There's a chat box there. If you don't see it, look at the bottom. There's an icon that reads chat. Click on that. And what you could do is prefix it with the hashtag OpenQA and then pose your question so that towards the end, we're going to have about hopefully at least 10 minutes for Q&A. And in terms of the agenda, we're going to get started right now. We're about 11 minutes in. My bad again for the delay, but we're cool. Quick intro with Calvin and what he's been doing. We're going to have hopefully 3 topics, if not at least 2. And cases as well. So the way the cases are laid out is they are here to help you guys figure out how you will handle certain situations if you were to either try and convince a brand to get you the distribution license, or if you wanted to build your own network, and anything that Calvin will help us navigate through essentially from his perspective. And as I mentioned, there's going to be an open floor for questions and answers and all that good stuff. Are we good? Can I have a thumbs up here just to make sure that I'm making sense? Thanks, Gertrude. Who else? Thanks. Cool. Bryce, are you on? No? Okay, cool. My man Serge. Yep. Okay, cool. All right. So as I mentioned in a few emails, we have Calvin Miller here. He basically was in the States, Maryland, Texas, moved. Calvin was over here. Was in the States. School, career, everything was good. Decided to jump and then make the leap that we all, at least all of us, if not most of us at least, are trying to make. But you know what? I'm just gonna give you the mic. I'm let you. I don't want to butcher your life and butcher your story. I'm gonna let you do your thing and let us know, who are you?
Thank you. Well, you said it. My name is Calvin Miller, and guys, I have to tell you, I'm very excited to come here today to share my story with you and to talk about this topic of distribution and licensing in Africa. And I'm very passionate about the business environment in Africa. And as a result, it's only an honor to share my passion with you guys today. As far as the host, I would like to thank you for sending this up. And I've known Aris for quite a while now. We actually known each other since we were in high school. And way back, we thought he was going to be a basketball player and be able to win the slam dunk contest in the NBA. But hey, it turned out great. We here setting up this workshop so that we can talk about opportunities that could potentially be career changing and life changing. So I'm going to take the opportunity just to talk about myself real quick. It's not really about me, but to give you a little bit of my background before we get started. Very similar to you guys, I moved to Europe and to the US, spent a few years, 20 plus years in the Washington, D.C. area, and went to the University of Maryland, where I had a business degree in supply chain and logistics and a minor in information system. From that, I started a career in consulting, specifically around deployment of ERP. I was an SAP consultant for a while. Then after a few years, I started to do a little bit more of strategic work around supply chain and logistics. And within the last 2 years at Deloitte, I started working with oil and gas client, so within that industry, and eventually had one of my clients in Houston who wanted me to join the company full time. So I ended up leaving the consulting world to join the industry and move my family from Maryland to Houston, where I stayed for about 3 years. Continued doing a little bit about the same thing, consulting, strategy, as well as managing project, defining the roadmap between technology and supply chain for that company. I was very happy. Like I wasn't unhappy about where I was, but I always knew that I wanted to do something in Africa. Way back in 2007, that was actually my first attempt of trying to crack the code for the first time in Africa. And back in 2007, I decided to start a venture around fire security system to take advantage and to limit the fact that there were a lot of places burning down, buildings, market, and things like that. So I figure I will come up with something, like very basic and standard. At the time, the market was not quite ready yet. And on top of that, I lack experience. I was young, didn't have the finance, and couple of, like with coupling all that, let's just say it didn't work out the way I anticipated. So I had to move back, regroup, and went back to work. And, like just to continue my career. So fast forward back to where I was in Houston. While I was there working for that oil and gas client, I was still building and nurturing my passion about, like continue to try something in Africa. And I remember back in 2014, around that time, uh, I went to Cameroon, and one thing became evident to me, apparent in the consumer goods area. I noticed that the habit of the consumer in Africa, where like that habit was changing, because I remember way back, there was no such, like there was probably one supermarket in the entire city of Yaoundé. And I remember my dad used to take us, it was our outing. Going to the supermarket was our outing. So we'll go either twice a month or once a month. That's how we're able to go and enjoy it. Take that escalator ride, who was probably the only escalator in Yaoundé. And it was very selective. Only few people would go to the supermarket. And you move a couple of years later, then you realize there's supermarket everywhere. And plus, you could tell that it was no longer selective. Anybody from any like social class, you can find them in the supermarket. And at that point, I just realized that, you know what, there's something, there are opportunities within the consumer good industry in Africa. So I little by little just started to like write down the different things within that particular industry, that section that I wanted to, I guess, develop and start a business. So I put down the list of few initiatives. And so when I was working at one point, like back in 2016, like late in 2016, the oil and gas crash. So it's a very cycle business. And it was one of those times where we just knew that they were letting people go, offering severance package. And I just view it as an opportunity around December 16 to say, hey, I'm happy here, but I know I have bigger expectation as far as more on the passion side than anything else. And I figure I've been working on these different things for a few years now, and it's probably the right time to execute, to act on those. So I had a partner that I usually share like business idea with. And we took a hard look at the list, and we narrowed it down to like three initiatives. And one of them happened to be Duracell. which is what I'm doing today. I'm a distributor of the Duracell brand in Central Africa. So different products from car batteries, Duracell car batteries, which is fairly new, and like to the traditional alkaline batteries and few other things like flashlight and other products beside Duracell. I also we the last two were Häagen-Dazs, and one of them was also within the house improvement market. So I ended up picking Duracell and got my Severin package and quickly jet out of Houston to Africa. And since then, it's been 3 years that I'm enjoying that ride. So that's a little bit about myself. So
Okay, cool. Appreciate that, man. The thing that comes to mind right away is, I mean, you have so many options out there in terms of brand, in terms of licenses to get for distribution. Why Duracell? Simply said, I personally wouldn't have thought of it. I would have thought, anything entertainment, anything sports, anything cooler, to say the least. I mean, no disrespect to your business, but but yeah, why did you go with Duracell? What happened to that?
This is really interesting because it's the same thing that a lot of people were asking me, but back home, not here, but few people here as well. Like, you leave a career in oil and gas, you leave a career in consulting to be selling alkaline batteries. I laugh all the time, but it's actually more complicated than that. Like I was saying before, I had three options, right? So one of them was Häagen-Dazs, the ice cream thing. And I took a hard look at it, and it was sounded like a good business opportunity. But what I realized is the license cost, since we're talking about licensing, was pretty high. And if you think about it, the is the competition for it is very easy. Actually, it's not Häagen-Dazs, but you see ice cream places almost everywhere in Africa right now. And if you're going to bring a premium brand and pay premium prices to acquire the license or just to start that business, you have to make sure that you get a good return and you're not on the losing hand. And so just looking at it, looking at the buying power in certain places in Africa, I realized even though it's a good idea, people are trendy, they like to go for things like that. Like, it's a good place. We don't have a lot of entertainment. So you got families that just use that as their Sunday outing. And it was quite good. And then there was like one competition that I saw out there. We was doing really well. But to me, it was just because of that licensing fee, I felt like it was a big risk to put all that money in to something that's unproven. So that was out. Then the second option was the house improvement thing. It was actually I really felt good about it. I engaged the company that we were going to do it with. They were very, very interested. They wanted to come in 70%, like straight setting up things, shops in Africa, and distribute from Douala to distribute to the rest of Africa. And it was really good materials. The only problem is it was capex intensive. Even though they wanted to bring 70% in, that 30% is still a lot of 30%, still a lot of dollars to come up with. It was going to take time, as anything that really good. And I had also a little bit of a doubt about how the market will react, because we have when you do your research, you realize that we're more prone, because of our buying power, to go to like Chinese type products, Dubai, even the people that you think have money. It's the first thing that we go after, because there are not a lot of options out there. So might be banking to like 10% of the population before you start developing that culture that people can start coming about quality, high-end quality products. So that was out. It's not really out, but pause. So we think about it when I'm ready. They're still interested, and we think about it when I'm ready. So we were left out with Duracell, which was actually the best option at the time. Even though you still have to come up with some financing, but the return on the investment is quite faster. You know, it's good. You sell, you get the money back. So it's something you can predict. It was easy to predict. And given the fact that you also have a known brand in Africa, when I was growing up, probably you too, when people were referring to something that lasts, they used to say, lasts like Duracell. So you have energies, you have that bunny energy. So I figure it was a much more easier sell than an unknown brand or a more complex market. And that's how like we pretty much decided to go with that brand.
Okay, I'm unmuted. I'm unmuted. Okay, cool. Yeah, thanks, man. Appreciate that. I promise you guys that this will not be a talk. It'll be interactive. So if you have questions already, please put them on the chat box so we can jump on those at at some point throughout this workshop. Now, talking about workshop, there is a case that Calvin put together for you. So the way I'm going to go about it is I'm going to share it right now, and maybe Calvin, if you will, just go ahead and read it out to you, to us, sorry, and let's make sure we understand why we have this case and what's the case all about. So go ahead, man.
Well, thank you, Iris. So I really like this initiative when Iris spoke to me about it. The simple fact that sometimes you just go to places and you talk, people listen to you, and they may not really come out with what they expected. So it's actually good that it's interactive, and you guys can ask questions. You guys get into like cases, but we'll start up with like warm up. So this is more of a like picking multiple choices, and you guys, we'll just do a polling and see um, what it's all about. So the first one is not much of a case, but we're just setting the stage, right? So so if you think about it, um, a lot of you guys, I will assume, right, if you are interested in distribution and licensing, so you're probably in the US, the UK, somewhere, Pakistan, and you probably at that stage where you still looking for what you want to do and still searching for those opportunities. You find one, let's just pick one like that, Starbucks, or you want to bring Burger King or anything like that, L'Oreal. So if you are exploring those opportunities and you are unproven, as you could tell, a lot of these brands lately they are moving to Africa. If you go somewhere, you see KFC, you see all these things, like all these big shops. The thing is, when they move to Africa, usually they are more interested partnering or expanding in safe places, meaning they know what they will get out of it. So when they look for a partner or they look for someone who's coming to look for this for a license or a distribution, they usually look for people that have historical background. They already have skin in the game. They're very strong. They know this is a partner. We're not jeopardizing the brand by giving it to someone who's lacking that what they're looking for. So knowing that you guys are probably in the same boat that I was 3 years ago, saying I'm unproven, but I want to go get an international brand. So I'm going to put together like a list of things here so that you could, you just guess. Then we could talk about it. What's more important when you're trying to convince an established brand to trust you to become their distributors or licensee in emerging market, knowing that you're not an established business yet. So it's multiple choice. I don't think there's any wrong answer. It's just if you were to prioritize, what would be most important to you if you guys were to put yourself in the shoes of Starbucks. So you guys are coming in and you want to talk to Starbucks. and you are Starbucks, you're looking at a person and saying, I want to go to Africa and I want a license, or I want to become your representative. What do you think from this list? It's something that if you were to prioritize, that would be most important to them.
So I'll appreciate it. We'll give you guys another maybe 30 seconds. We have 53% of folks who've provided their answers in a poll. Sorry. Another 30 seconds, and we'll close it and trying to get some thoughts from Calvin here. And once again, if you have specific questions, please shoot them in the chat box, just to make sure that we address your needs.
Okay, and I also believe that, Aris, you have a section for Q&A, right? Just in case people have questions about my background and different things that you didn't think that I went into detail, so you could always keep them till the end, and then you will ask your question. But I think you feel free to ask them in the chat box as well.
Cool. All right, so I have 64. I'm happy with that. Let me just close maybe another 5 seconds, and I'll close out the poll. 1, 2, 3, 4, boom. All right, so this is what we get. Can you all see the results on your end?
Yeah, I can see it.
Cool.
So it's actually great. So we're going to talk about these results one by one. So I think
hold on one second, Kelvin. Let's just spend another 2-3 minutes on this. We're already halfway through the workshop here. Let's just spend another 2-3 minutes. Give us your thoughts about maybe the top 2, and then we'll proceed. We'll proceed.
Okay. Excellent. So I'm looking at the screen, and I would love to give my top 2, but let's just talk about this 79% that voted to demonstrate there is a real opportunity in that market. That's actually accurate. A lot of times, brands, they would like to expand. They would like to expand in things that they're comfortable with. They would like to expand in known markets. So they want that additional income, but they also have to think about what's at stake. Like, okay, maybe let's say you bring $500,000 more to L'Oreal, but there's a strong possibility that this guy is not solid enough. Something can happen legally. It could damage the brand, etc. So if you think about it, this is a strong case that you will be making, but it's probably not going to be at the top of the list of any international brand, because they want to make sure at first that this guy that we are about to partner with, like to get married with, it's someone we can trust. So a lot of the times, what you will see is the brands will look for, what have you done? What are the things that you're currently doing? What have you done? Are you already in that market? Are you already working in that industry? Like, how comfortable are you in that market? So once they feel a certain comfort level with what you've done, your historical background, then the next best thing that they will look out for is how strong financially you are. Like, because maybe you have money now, but you run out of money tomorrow, and this is a waste. So they will look at it. So to me, the number one thing, I mean, again, none of these choices are wrong, but the number one thing, you have to make sure you're strong financially. You have a strong financial backing, and if you don't, then you can probably have a combination of 2 things. You get a good understanding of your local market, and what I would recommend is to partner with someone that's going to bring you added value. Let's say you like financial backing, you like that historical past that they're looking for, and you're never going to get that license if you don't have it. It's better to have 40% of something than 0% of nothing that will never start, 100% of nothing that will never start. So you can you can do your own research, look for someone in that space. If it's a beauty industry, if it's in the food industry, then then you can try to see, okay, how good these guys are. This is a real market opportunity. We can partner. You have a stronger case. Then when you go after these things, you can say, hey, we already have a network. We already developed these guys. We have the money. We have the knowledge, and you have your personal experience as well. That, hey, I've been in overseas, I've worked here. It's going to help me do that. But one thing though, before I know Aries only gave me 3 minutes here, is I mentioned partnering. Partnering, it's a key component of any business. I always, my friend Armel always remind me of this. I always like to select my friend to do business with. So because I'm like that, I like to share passion. I always go out, pick my friend and say, hey, we have this good idea, let's do it. But it's good if your friend is complementary, you guys have the same vision, then do it together. But if not, just don't pick your friend because it's your friend, because you need to diversify what you're lacking. You like financial, go after someone that sounds you can trust. You like experience, do that. So that will be my answer from this poll. So if you feel strong about a question or a specific bullet point, we can definitely come back to it.
We had a total of 3 cases to go through. Obviously, we won't have time for it, especially if you want to give it another about 10 minutes for Q&A. I want you to touch on, let's just forget about the cases for now. I want you to touch on how to build your network. So yes, you were able to secure the license with Duracell. Now you landed to a place where you haven't been for 20 plus years. How do you start selling, man? That would be my first thing. Like, how do I build that network? Not just just on customer distribution. If you could give us a couple of maybe practical story from your experience. I know you and I talked about it. And then if you could incorporate the counterfeiting, because we know that back home we don't have as much financial capacity as we have here. So if you could touch on that for the next about 10 minutes or so, and we're going to jump straight into the questions.
Okay. So I think it's great, but I think you say we have about 20 minutes, so I'll do my best to get to those topics. So one of the things that I had going for me was I was in supply chain. I had a good knowledge about like setting up distribution channels, but you're right. What I was lacking was the fact that, let's say, I had zero knowledge about how things really truly work back home. And what I knew was, okay, what are the different products that I have, so I can channel the different segment, so the division that I will put in place, so I can set up that distribution channels clean. And what we had was car batteries, Duracell car batteries. We had alkaline batteries, so the traditional battery, and then we had like some auto parts. So first, the distribution channels are very different. They're very different. So if you're speaking about car batteries, then you're looking more at, okay, we're looking at mechanic shop. You're looking at car dealers. You're looking at from just a B2B standpoint, you're looking at companies that have a lot, like a big fleet, truck, things like that. And you also have that actually 2 more. You have the customer, the B2C. So you have to make sure there's service that goes with that B2C. And you have resellers. So you have people that are already selling batteries. And because you're in distribution, then you want to get to those folks. So that was one of them. And then if you go to the alkaline batteries, that was a little bit easier because you sell things supermarket. That market was booming. So it's easier to know how many supermarkets we have. So it's called modern trade. So within modern trade, you already have known supermarket. And then you have what I call the up and coming, the mini market. So like gas station, all those things. So from that, you have to just go and get your list and things of that nature. And then the mass market. The mass market is probably the bulk of what everything is selling in Africa is mass market, because that's the money that we got, is our buying power. So it's just traditional market, things like that. So you have to go and pretty much look out for these different channels. Now, how do you go about it? Then there are multiple ways. Um, uh, you could start advertising. You can advertise, and this is actually one of the cases that I put for you guys together that we would talk about. Then you can advertise, and matter of fact, I always reach out to you, Aris, to help me with marketing, and how I would like to market, advertise online and things like that. Then you could boots on the ground, paper trail. You have to follow where the money is. You get on the ground. You ask people, okay, where's that market? Where are people selling? You get to that market. That's where you see all the things that you never anticipated. All the counterfeiting Duracell alkaline batteries sitting out there in the market shelves. You actually go to supermarket and you'll be surprised. Even in supermarket, you will see counterfeiting. So you do those things. You get on the ground, and so you can also do something that's very interesting, is you invite all these suppliers. You don't have personal relationship with them, but you invite them to come to like a workshop, just like we're doing, so you guys can exchange and talk, so you get to know a little bit more about them. One thing in Africa is, you guys, I'm sure you know it, we rely a lot on personal relationship. It's not as cold as, overseas, abroad, we talk about, oh yeah, build relationship, but it's still cold. Like, it's pretty much, I know this guy, hey John, da 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 da. But Africa is not just I know John, is I know John, let's go get a beer. Oh, he knows me. And sometimes they make decision, not sometimes, very often the decision is financial, but very often they will make decision because they know you on a personal level. So those are the different ways. And one last thing is, if you're completely clueless, you probably want to get people that have already done it, like your customer, like your account managers, people that know the market better. Maybe they were working for the competition before, so you get them, just like I did on the battery side, where it's more complicated. And I get those guys, they already knew a little bit where to go with it. So those are the different things that we did. But you're right. I Before we move into the case where you, and I don't know how you set it up, but I wanted to talk about counterfeiting. Counterfeiting, it's actually for certain type of products. It's something that, it's a challenge that you probably never anticipated how big they are. Counterfeiting and knockoff brands. So it depends. Going into the beauty industry, you bring L'Oreal, you'll be surprised by how many L'Oreal are in the market. So you'll be surprised by either L'Oreal or L'Oreal. So it's just whatever it is. So they bring this product from China, bring this product from Dubai, and they flood the market with it. And people, either because that's the buying power that they got, they really don't care. They want to go and grab it, buy it, use it, feel good about it. I mean, it's counterfeiting. Sometimes it could be dangerous good, damage your skin or damage your electronics, but still, that's what they can afford. And a lot of times too, there are people that can afford the real product, but they simply just don't know the difference between L'Oreal and L'Oreal, or a L'Oreal that's actually look pretty close to L'Oreal. So you have tons of work to like, you have tons of work to do. And another classic, because you're asking for a real case scenario, another classic example in that space is, so you will get like on the market, and then you bring those products, and half of your network that you may have developed is saying, hey, now that you find us, it's good that you find us. We're here, we're a supermarket, we are the traditional mass market. But this thing that you're selling, it's quite expensive compared to the L'Oreal that I buy, or the fake Duracell, or the fake whatever. Then they tell you, yeah, it's a good product, but think about this. Your selling price to me, it's the same as what I'm getting from counterfeiting. And the price that I'm pricing it on the market, it's the recommended selling price that you're asking me to price it for. And when I'm pricing it at that same price, my profit margin is lowering by this much. So why would I sell yours when I'm already selling this? You can spend days arguing about quality. Sitting in the market, they already know that our customer, they don't care about that too much. Then you have half of them, their positioning may be different, and they want to talk about quality. So for them, it's an easy sell. So you go out there, you tell them you don't even have to say anything. They're not a lot interested about profit margin. Everybody is, but they're more interested about what's the damage that is going to do to a brand like a supermarket like Carrefour or a supermarket like Casino, or if you were to bring Giant in. So those are supermarkets that I work with. They're more interested about quality, because if someone comes in, they have fake stuff. It's not only damaging their reputation, but it's impacting Carrefour as a brand. So you have those. So now you have a decision to make. Should I just work with those 50%? What should I do? Should I educate other people? So you have all those different things. So you can. Unfortunately, we don't have enough time, but maybe we'll get into that later. So we could just. Iris was already timing me out.
Yeah,
Okay.
man. It's great. And I just realized that an hour is definitely not going to be enough. I was over optimistic on this one.